Welcome back to another podcast. This is podcast number 3 with myself, David Moses, and Michelle Thomas. And in this podcast, we're going to be talking to you about coping skills. So, Michelle, perhaps you could explain coping skills to begin with.
Okay, sure. Coping skills are the skills that we use or utilize in our life to help us to get through events that happen. So whether it's usually it's something negative or stressful or that's creating some kind of chaos in our life, when we need to de-stress, we create these ways that we resort to help us get through our stressful times. And more often than not, they are usually negative coping skills, perhaps things like maybe drinking, using recreational drugs, shopping, all of those things that kind of take us to a place to temporarily relieve the stress. But if it's done too often, it can be harmful for us.
Like potato chips?
Yes, eating, that's my favorite coping skill.
I know what you're saying, for sure. And so when we turn that around and we want to use good coping skills, then what are the benefits of using coping skills and meditation, I guess, as a coping skill?
Yes, the benefits are that they are designed to be a more healthier choice, like more conscious, where we're aware, okay, I have this chaos, I have this stress going on in my life. I need to just take a break, but I'm going to take a hot bath. I'm going to go and work out. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to listen to music. It's like looking at your life to say, okay, what can I do physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually that will de-stress me and not take me too far off the path that I want for my life, right?
Okay, so then if we're doing that, how can we fit meditation into our busy lifestyles, right? Because that's another thing.
Yeah. Well, I think I talked about it in the previous podcast about doing meditation just as a set of 10 deep breaths. And that's something I tell my clients that you can do anytime. Like even when you're in the middle of driving, you can just consciously say, okay, I'm going to take 10 deep breaths. When you're standing in a line, waiting for someone, waiting to get your coffee or whatever, take 10 deep breaths, like consciously, or 5 even, 2 sets of 5. Just little things like that where you can, because the breathing is not technically meditation, but it's also another coping skill, right? That we can use with meditation. So when we combine them together, the meditation allows us to quiet our mind and the breath allows us to quiet our body so that we're nice and calm. We reset our system.
And that coping skill of breathing, we talked about that before as well.
We did. Yes,
we
did.
And how important that is. And when you said standing in line somewhere or driving your car, and it's not like somebody's going to be staring at you while you're breathing, right?
Right. And I'm the kind of person, I get annoyed if I'm stuck in traffic. So I say to myself, okay, I have 2 choices. I could get really mad and agitated and worked up, or I could just sit here and do my breath work. And I don't like standing in line. And I get annoyed too, waiting. So again, it's that consciousness to say, okay, I could really go 2 ways here. I could get annoyed, or I could just stand here and just take some deep breaths. So it's the mindfulness too of how we're choosing to react. And that's kind of how we fit it into our lives, is we just make space for it. Doesn't need to be a big production and take a lot of time, but it's those little moments where we can fit it in.
The other thing is you were talking about that, you mentioned the mindfulness. That's almost like another coping skill.
It
to
is.
be mindful of, I'm getting annoyed. Be aware that you're doing that and make the choice, because it is a conscious choice you have to be aware of, right?
It really is, yeah. I have a scale because part of my healing over the past 20 years has been to work with my anger. I used to be a very angry person. And so I have to be really mindful of my annoyance scale. And so I've learned over the years to really be mindful of where I'm at on that level and to know when I need to take it down a notch and bring myself down and be present and grounded and all those things, or to just leave the situation, right? So yeah, it's definitely, mindfulness is a skill that needs to be cultivated for sure.
I like what you were just saying there about that annoyance scale.
Yeah.
That's great. It's a really good
Yes.
coping skill to have.
It is. It is. Yeah. And it's just taking a lot of therapy to be more present and more aware of how my actions and behaviors are impacting a lot of people, right? And to have ownership, I guess, of that.
Nicely said, Michelle. Any final words you want to wrap up with on this?
Just some encouragement to listen to these podcasts and these meditations. They're over at ONECA's website. You'll find it. And I believe they're putting it maybe on their social media and YouTube channels as well. And to start talking and share this information, because it's so important, especially during these stressful times of pandemic and things like that. So thanks for listening, everyone. And that's it.